Krumanretech, and today it's a novelty item day. As you can see, I have quite a gaudy looking ZX Spectrum Plus behind us. It's in white. It's not particularly finished very well, but that's not what we're looking at today. I bought this off of eBay. I saw it and it was interesting, and I thought, well, you know, I have a few Spectrum Pluses anyway, and also a few remakes of it in the guise or the version of a Harlequin, and I thought, let's have a look at it because it just looked interesting on the advert. I eventually won it, and I've been waiting quite a while for it to turn up. It's probably taken about a month for one reason or another to actually be shipped and turned up, and you know, sometimes you're going to have to give people a little bit of leeway because of the current situation. So, you know, it's just one of those things. But anyway, it turned up a few days ago and I kind of just put it to one side, and I thought to myself, I'll look at it when I get a few minutes. And that's now. And it's something I'd like to share with you because it's something that you may want to do to your own machines. It's also something that's a little bit novel in the way it does things. Whether or not it's going to have any long-term kind of life, but we don't know. It's something that, you know, we can all make our minds up about. So let's have a look at this quite novel white and black ZX Spectrum Plus. So it came in a standard ZX Spectrum Plus box. It was, you know, it's quite a nice box that it came in. It wasn't torn, ripped or bashed about. And the machine's been kind of upgraded, possibly not quite the right word. Modified is probably more nearer the mark. And it's been modified in such a way that, apart from the obvious white matte paintwork that's on it, it's also got a little Bluetooth moniker, which kind of may give the game away a little bit. But other than those, the white paint and the Bluetooth badge, it's just a Spectrum Plus. Now, the first thing you might notice is it's been modified for composite. So it's a composite out instead of RF, which is nice. It gives a better picture. And the other thing, it's actually shipped with a modern power supply. And this was all in the advert. And it's also got a on-off switch, which is here. Which again is nice, because the Spectrum doesn't have an on-off switch, but it still has the reset switch on the side. Now, if it was in a black case, you wouldn't really notice any difference, but it has a little bit of a party trick, other than it's just a standard 48K ZX Spectrum Plus. But before we go into that, let's just see the machine booted up. So what we're going to do is just power it on in a second and then connect it to the monitor. So if I power the machine on, and you'll see the little green light glowing, and if I just pan the camera up as normal, you will see just a standard ZX Spectrum screen. Everything else is the same because it's just a standard ZX Spectrum. Now, the party trick for this machine is not the machine itself, it's how it loads its software, and that uses or could use a mobile phone. So if we start from scratch, we're going to use Play ZX, and we're going to select a file that we need to actually load or would like to load, and type load on the machine and press enter. And then all I'm going to do is select the file I want to play, and then what it does is it just basically acts as an audio file. So basically it's just a copy of the original audio file. So if I press play on here, you can hear it starting, and you can see it loading. Now that's done remotely by Bluetooth. So there's no wires needed, there's no connection needed, and so on. You don't have to use the application I'm using now. You can use any other MP3 or WAV file compatible player, and you can just use it that way, and you can actually just load your programs from an MP3 player which has Bluetooth capability. And this is all you have to do. So while it's loading, the novelty might wear off a little bit, after you've used it a few times by using a mobile phone to download your games or to load your games into your ZX Spectrum Plus. Now, as you can see though, sometimes it doesn't work first time. I think it's probably due to the file itself. I think the file wasn't brilliant, and you're going to get that because obviously with using this Bluetooth system and using a file called PlayZX or an app called PlayZX, you're going to find that certain games or certain files won't work properly or have issues because they've been conversions down the years, and sometimes they just flat out refused to work, and it didn't matter if it was Bluetooth or not. So what I'm going to do is to try my old favourite now, and it's one I always try on a Spectrum just to make sure everything works, is the old Monty on the Run. There we go. So there's no real difference, it loads the game straight away. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the program we use, just in case you want to use it yourself. So ideally you'll have a spare mobile phone and you'll decide that I want to use this to install my software. So if you go to PlayZX, which is downloadable, and this is the file that was used to load it. And all you do is, once you've selected your tape, you just press play after you've typed load, just like on any other ZX Spectrum. Okay. So if you go back to the main menu now, you'll see you've got basically A to Z down the side, and these are all games or all downloads that rely on you having a Wi-Fi connection. So really it works under Wi-Fi, so it's a Bluetooth adapter to your mobile phone which is designed to work under Wi-Fi with this app, but there's nothing stopping you using WAV files off of this installed on a mobile phone that you can use to Bluetooth it to, or an MP3 player, so you can kind of do the same. You don't need to have an online one. The advantage of the PlayZX is basically everything's online. So if you go to O, you have all of these to choose from. And all you're doing is you're just choosing whatever game or whatever program you want to do. And then you're just installing it. So it downloads it across the top there. It's on your phone now, ready to go, but it's just buffered. So then all you need to do is press play, and it will then send it out to your Bluetooth adapter. So it's quite a neat system, and it's quite good if you just want a very quick way of getting programs or getting data onto your ZX Spectrum. And it does work really well. Obviously you're going to find titles that don't load, but it's the same as if you download it from a library or you have your own conversions from cassette tape, etc. So that's the basics to it, and it does work really, really well. And as I say, Play ZX is fine, and it can work from any Bluetooth enabled Android mobile phone. So let's have a quick look inside the machine and see how it actually works, and see how it does the Bluetooth connection as well, because there's also one other novel thing about this machine which we haven't touched on yet, which we'll touch on in the next section. So let's get the machine apart. Okay, so I've taken the screws out the bottom of the machine, and we're just going to lift the top cover off and disconnect the keyboard itself. Now the keyboard's just standard, and it has a new membrane fitted, but it's also one of the later models with a plastic back instead of the metal, and it's also got a what looks like a new membrane, which is nice. So, but the only thing is this overspray on the case and around the edges hasn't been finished as well as it could have been, but you know, that's kind of maybe nitpicking a bit really, because I did buy it as a novelty. Now inside, okay, we have the standard issue 1983 issue 4S, which is alright. It's not a bad board, but it's been slightly modified. As you can see, it's got a couple of little aluminium heat sinks kind of stuck on there. Yeah, you know, you could have really put a longer heat sink on, and as I say, they are stuck on. They're not thermal paste on, they're just self-adhesive. So not really sure what they're going to do, because there's no thermal paste between the little aluminium heatsink and the actual ULA itself. It also seems to have had a replacement beeper speaker at some point, and it's also got a couple of minor modifications. The board itself is quite clean, the case inside is quite clean, and it looks quite nice. Now it has a small addition here, which looks like it's been taken out of a Bluetooth adapter and then soldered onto the power leads on the board, and you have an output going directly to your input jack for where you would normally connect either an SD drive or a standard cassette recorder. Now that's quite nicely done really. It's been screwed into the case and through the case, so it's mounted quite well. And the other surprises on this side is, again, you have a USB adapter board, which is quite nice, because it's literally a USB interface that's been soldered onto the main power points for your ZX Spectrum motherboard. So what you have here is a very slightly modified ZX Spectrum. It's been quite well done in a way. I mean, you can see out of the front here where the USB port comes through, and again it's been screwed into place, which is quite nice. You can see the screws there. So that's how it was done. You have not a massive amount of modification to the board. It's only basically 4 wires, and then you have the ability to Bluetooth your programs or your software straight to your ZX Spectrum. It's quite a novel thing to do, and it hasn't been too badly thought out. Not quite sure what the benefit of these stick-on heat sinks are really going to be. If it takes away a little bit of the heat of the ULA, then it's probably going to be worth it, but I'm not sure that it actually will. To be honest, with them being stuck on as well, I actually think that they're going to generate or insulate, so they're going to generate more heat. But this is a machine I intended to use as a bit of a novelty, and on that point of view, it does well. It really does work very well. Long term though, I'm not so sure about this Play ZX. I'm not so sure long term that Play ZX will be something that you should be relying on to power your ZX Spectrum, because if the app is not supported anymore a little bit further down the line, then although you've got convenience of your software all in one place, that will disappear along with the app. So I'm not so sure that that's probably your best source of software. It's a convenient one for now, but if you can buy let's say an old mobile phone with Bluetooth and then use its recorder that you get on most mobile phones, most Android ones, and then convert your audio files or your cassettes or anything else you can download as WAV files and so on onto your old mobile phone or your old MP3 Bluetooth enabled device, then that might be a better way forward, because you have physical copies on your device then, and you're not relying on an app and the internet. And all you need to do is do the same, type load, press play on your software on your phone, and let the file play through, and it'll do exactly the same job. But it's not bad. It's great. It's a great bit of fun. It's a fun piece of kit, and I can see the advantage of using a mobile phone to basically import your software. And your average mobile phone is many thousands times more powerful than your Sinclair Spectrum was at the time. It just shows you how things have progressed, but sometimes not always for the right reasons. So yeah, as novelty things go, I quite like this. I think it's a bit of fun, and I didn't particularly need another ZX Spectrum, but I thought it was fun. I'm not so sure about the whiteness on the case. It probably would have been better if it was actually painted, I would term, properly. It's got loaded bits of dust in it, and it's quite rough in places, and that's not because of the texture on the machine itself. But if I really wanted to keep it, which I probably will, I think it's a nice little novelty, I'll probably redo the paintwork, and I might keep it white, but I'll put some black striping on where the original stripes or the original grooves are, just to make it look a little different and to fit in more with the keyboard, which is what I'm going to do a little bit later. But I'm going to do a video on all my tidy ups, as I'll call it, a little bit later. But that's kind of a minor thing, but the actual way it works is quite nice. It's novel. There are other solutions out there, and these solutions don't involve such an invasive way of kind of modifying the machine itself, and a lot of them basically are independent devices that actually plug into the actual ear socket on the Spectrum itself, or any 3.5mm jack. But doing it this way will avoid any extra wiring, which is a good thing. So yeah, it's been done quite nicely, really, to be honest. Would I change this machine for this machine with this SD drive on the side? Would I prefer this one to that one? Now, not sure, because I think this machine here with this SD drive on the side is a more long-term way of storing your games and your programs, and it's all on here. It's all stored in that little SD card in the front. It doesn't rely on the internet, it doesn't rely on downloads, it doesn't rely on an app. It's all solidly in the machine now. Where this one relies on the internet, it relies on an app, it relies on the app being there when you need it, or all the data being there when you need it, and it makes you a little bit more vulnerable to whoever produced the app or owns the app to start charging, or to delete it, or to not to support it anymore, and then you're left with a machine that is not really usable unless you go back to an SD drive or a standard cassette drive. I like the concept, and I'd like it more once I get an old mobile phone or a small form factor mobile phone to sit probably down here with all of the physical software stored on the phone, so it doesn't need to be downloaded. Then I'll be a lot more happier. But in the short term, I'm going to use the phone with the app that's on it, and just to have a play with it and see what it's all about, and see if the software is reliable as it claims to be as well. But so far it's a bit hit and miss, but you know, it does work, and the Bluetooth side of it does work really well on this as well. So overall I'm quite happy I got this. So what are my final thoughts about this machine? Well, I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I won it off of eBay, and I'm glad I've got something like this in my collection, because it's a kind of recreation of the machine itself. So it's a little bit more 21st century rather than 20th century, and for that, you know, you couldn't ask for more. As I said, I'm not sure about the white, but it's kind of starting to grow on me a little bit. You know, it does look different. Black and white always goes together anyway. But the way it was set up, the way the machine came with a brand new power supply, it also came with a brand new membrane, and it also came with the USB port in the front as well as the Bluetooth system. I think it makes it quite a happy little machine, and it makes me smile, and I think that's what this is all about. Long term though, I won't be using the app because it's a bit of a volatile thing to use, especially if they discontinue the app, or they stop supporting it, or they start charging, which is always a possibility with apps. So I'm going to convert audio files to run off of an older mobile phone, or even an MP3 with Bluetooth that can play WAV files and so on. So that's where I'm going to go with this machine, and it's going to be a little bit of fun, and it's a fun machine, and it's something that kind of makes you smile a bit when you start using it and you realise you're using a 21st century mobile phone with thousands more times capability in the phone than this will ever have, or ever did have, and you know, something that you fits in your pocket, whereas this still needs an external data source, a monitor, quite a chunk of power when you think about it to make it run, you know, and it's very limited, but it's an 8-bit machine and it's still fun today. So let's keep these little projects going, because I quite enjoy them. So if you've got anything that you've done and you'd like to share, well, just, you know, drop me a comment, and we'll hopefully get together and we'll try and do something on whatever you've put together or whatever you invented, you know, and try and get more people interested in it. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you on this channel a little bit in the future. So thank you. Thanks for your time.